the beginning, there was work. In the primordial era, life was embryonic and undefined, with the basic building blocks of the universe coming together in unpredictable ways. It was a time of both wonder and foreboding, as the cosmos forged its path through the unknown. Uncertainty, excitement, limitless potential, all wrapped up in a single cosmic event. After the Big Bang, everything was new. Oceans appeared, mountains rose, forests spread, and with them the flora and fauna. Everything was untouched, unexplored, and infinitely abundant. Then along came us. How about that? Emerging from the primal ooze. How about that? And what's the first thing? The first thing we did, once we met our basic need for food and romance, right? We started working. When ancient man and woman stood up on two legs, they immediately went to work. Men doing the hunting, the warring, and the building, and women harvesting, homemaking, and rearing the next generation. Everyone had to work if mankind was to survive, and that, my friends, has never changed. But since then, everything else in the world of work has literally been defined by change. Where we work, when we work, how much we work, the rules of work. Work to survive turned into work for wages, and our ancestors created workplaces where that would happen. Work could be dangerous, even deadly. And it was probably pretty boring and repetitive most of the time too. And forget about work-life balance, no such thing. But as society evolved, so did work, workplaces, and workers. Jobs were invented and just as quickly disappeared. Think about what happened to all of those lamplighters, carriage builders, switchboard operators, the milkmen, typesetters, and Y2K consultants. As society discovered new needs, new jobs were born. The Uber driver, the webinar producer, the Tesla mechanic, the NFT broker, my friends, and yes, even the AI engineer. And since about the beginning of the 20th century, those workers and those jobs have come under the charge of HR, of what we used to call the personnel department, creating new positions, new policies, and worker-friendly benefits like health insurance and pensions. You see, we've been driving change for a very, very long time. We saw this journey come to life on Sunday during our opening experience. How many of you remember Grace? Right? From our first days, we began guiding workplaces through rapid economic growth and social change, through the conformity of the 50s, the turmoil of the 60s and the 70s, the technological breakthroughs of the 80s and 90s, all the way up to the millennium. And through it all, HR, we adapted and managed through the changes, doing our best to serve our businesses and the people in them. Everything, for lack of a better term, was normal. But some companies, frankly, didn't handle progress and never adapted. And some people didn't either. And I know about this one. So many of you don't know, but I began my law career at a corporation that many of you may have heard of called Blockbuster. I had nothing to do with its bankruptcy. But anyway, I was there. Now let's be honest, how many of you all have these cards? Okay, don't deny it. Back in the day, it was everything to make it a blockbuster night, wasn't it? Around the globe. The whole business model, though, was, and my 12-year-old daughter who's here somewhere, like, is triggered when I tell her this. I was like, you, the customer, had to leave your house, Rain, sleet, snow, or freaking boiling lava, but you had to trudge out to a store to rent a videotape. Like a savage. That's what she thought. She's like, who does that, Daddy? Then you had to hope others in your neighborhood didn't beat you there to get the new releases. You all know, right? Which they happen to always do. I remember standing in Fort Lauderdale, which is where I'm from, Florida in the house. Do I see my Florida contingency, right? I went into a store and these two women damn near fought on the ground for the last copy of The Bodyguard. I was like, the irony, right? You need a bodyguard to get the bodyguard, but whatever. Well, my friends, that model where we had people fight for the last copy of the latest film release was good enough for Blockbuster management. I was there. We were Wall Street's darling. Money was literally falling out of the sky for us, and so we never changed. And because we didn't, there's exactly one Blockbuster video left on the planet, and it's in Bend, Oregon. I met some of your folks here. Bend, Oregon in the house, okay. And it's kind of an ironic museum, if you will, if you're interested in making a pilgrimage out to Bend. So here's the deal. Blockbuster is a cautionary tale for our profession too. Because we in HR have only grudgingly, and we have to be honest with ourselves, right? We've only grudgingly adopted technological advancements to help us do our jobs better. I sit back and I think, and I'm dating myself, but many of you remember when they brought the onslaught of all of this latest technology back in the 90s, and Resumix and ResTrack. Who remembers that, right? And people were using this technology, but barely, because we always believed that despite what we could do with technology, nothing could replace what human beings and HR experts could do. We needed our 100 talent acquisition, at that time called recruitment people, reviewing 10,000 resumes to find the perfect candidate, and no machine could help us do this. And then I remember having to do background checks back in the day. Oh my gosh, you were lucky if you could find out what someone did in your own county. Forget the next county and forget in another state. It was an entirely manual and human failure fraught process. But we had to do it because we were grudgingly holding on to what we did. We didn't want technology to take our jobs, Jim. And Gen Z, I want you to get ready. I know there are a few of you in this room, but get ready for this. Back in the day, on a Friday, your employer would issue you a paper payroll check, right? And you had to get to the bank, right, by 5:30, or you were gonna be broke all weekend long, right? You all know what I'm talking about. Don't pretend. There was no ATM machine. And then, oh, she said, that's right, sister. And then, my God, you put the check in the bank and they'd hold it for 3, 5, 7 days. It's like, what's up with this? I worked 2 weeks and I gotta wait another week to get the money. But by the time the 21st century arrived, work and therefore HR was transforming at an astonishing pace. While we used to quote Moore's law, power doubles every 18 months or something, well, we began to blow past that. Those calculations mean nothing today. Web 2.0, the interactive internet of social media and apps, enabled people to connect and collaborate more easily, which has led to this new thing that we call the gig economy. Workplaces, they saw the emergence of diversity, then inclusion, then equity, and now we have what's known as DE&I. We had total rewards, not just pay, employee wellness programs, not just focused on your physical health, but your mental health as well, and then what still I'm struggling with is casual dress. I don't know if you see in your workplace, people have interesting definitions of what is appropriate for work. But that's what we struggle with, right? HR, my friends, was in its ascendance. And SHRM was right here in this city in 2019, the then largest ever conference in the world. We held it right here in the city. And I remember way back then in 2019, referring to us as experiencing the new normal. The world of work was changing, and we as HR professionals were managing just swimmingly. And we finally had our seat at the table. We had arrived, and SHRM was there with you. And then just 9 months later, on March 13th, 2020, what I refer to as our Friday the 13th, the COVID-19 pandemic pushed us into an entirely new landscape. And that was the next big bang. Now we're in our own primordial universe. We're grappling with the unfamiliar, confronting our fears, and trying to make sense of the new world of work that is barreling toward us. So no, this is not about a new normal. It's about the new abnormal, where everything's new again. I want you to think about that. First, the rise of remote work. Who in this room could have imagined how quickly remote work would be implemented? It was like a Friday and then a Monday. And then how powerful of a weapon it could become in the war for talent. There's some right now who will say to you that remote work, sure, we had it, but it isn't here to stay because workers are less productive and companies can't build culture building people remotely. Others, however, believe that 25 years from now, most people will work outside of a dedicated physical workspace. They just have to wait for the dinosaurs, so dinosaurs like me to retire, right? Who's right? Who's wrong? Actually, we don't know. But what we do know, what we know right now is that our employees currently are pitted against us. They hate executives, we don't understand them, we're unwilling to compromise, and that leaves HR to figure out how to navigate this new abnormal. Next, intelligent systems. Intelligent systems are getting more intelligent. The specter of increased automation has always stalked the future of work. But now we have one of the most powerful tools ever put into the hands of human beings with AI. Artificial intelligence. And I don't know about you, I talk about, back 2020, but November 30th, 2022 changed the game for all of us. That was the day we were all formally introduced to something called ChatGPT. And I remember thinking that day, AI and machine learning are going to be huge, game-changing tools, but they are going to scare the you-know-what out of our employees. And boy, was I right. There's not a week that goes by when a major news headline doesn't tell employees how much their jobs are at risk because of this AI thing. And frankly, a lot of those headlines say HR jobs are going to be at risk as a result of AI. The resulting fear, and that's not an understatement, it's not hyperbole, has created one of the biggest nightmares for HR to manage. But I have some good news. At the end of the day, I like to say AI, artificial intelligence, plus HI, human intelligence, will equal ROI in the new world of work. It's not either or, okay? It's not that, and we have to help our employees understand that. This isn't about eliminating humans. It's about making human beings more efficient, more effective, better. Now, believe it or not, there are some things that AI, I keep saying that, AI simply won't be able to do. Those things are uniquely human. And we as HR will be the ones managing our employees' fears and their expectations around these tools. HR leaders, you and we will need to help our employees and our executives navigate the new abnormal. And then sci-fi becomes reality. Never thought I'd be saying that in my life. But I want you to think there's some really interesting stuff going on right now. Imagine just for a moment that work itself will morph into augmented reality with people interacting virtually in 3D, not what we're doing in the front of Zoom or Microsoft Teams or whatever, but I'm talking 3D, not just on a screen. We just saw two major product launches from Google and Apple, where they're both building these devices for future workplaces and workers. This is not just for gamers. Your meetings are actually going to take place in sort of a holodeck in the future. And how about space-based workplaces? I know some of you say, I'd love to send some of my employees to space, but I'm talking outer space. Companies could launch space stations or colonies that allow employees to work in zero-gravity environments. Companies like SpaceX and Blue Origin are already making significant progress in this area. I got one for you. How about managing a workplace where your biggest diversity issues are commingling humans with robots and cyborg coworkers? You see, with advances in robotics and biotechnology, we have to think about what will all this mean for work. And it's not going to take 100 years, my friends. We've got to deal with this now. What about the ethical issues that will land on your holographic desk? And then finally, one of the biggest issues I think we confront is that we're going to have different workers with different problems. Many of you remember the Jetsons. Remember they promised us flying cars by now. Well, I'm not going to promise you that, but what I can tell you is this. Each of us will be dealing with a whole new set of people issues, different than anything you can imagine right now. Why? And what could they be? The 75-year-old who doesn't want to retire but wants to be promoted. Go figure that out. Like Generation Alpha, who literally has been they've been appearing on social media since the day they were born as infants. They are literal digital natives, and they will be educated in a system that we do not recognize today. Their priorities, by the way, are going to center on issues like sustainability, social change, and economic progress. And economic progress, why? Because they are likely to be the first generation where they won't have done better than their parents, despite working. And then it goes without saying, you'll be dealing with the most diverse workforce in the history of our world. This notion that we're doing diversity because it's the right thing to do, hell, it's the only thing to do. The workforce of the future is going to be diverse. Equity issues around gender nonconformity, invisible disabilities, not just the person that you see in a wheelchair, but invisible disabilities, and employee activism are going to keep you up at night. And I'm so sorry to tell you, but that's what you signed up for. These are just some of the challenges that I and we at SHRM can imagine for you. You'll be dealing with many more sweeping changes that are going to be caused by other emerging technologies that we can't even fathom now. And so the question for you all is, does that scare you or does that excite you? That's the question. Nothing will be normal, nothing. So it's going to take a special type of HR leader to navigate the new abnormal. And so the question is, who are the HR professionals that businesses will need in the coming years? That's the real fundamental question. Let me start by challenging you a thought, something I've been thinking about a lot. And it's this whole idea. We evolved in the late 80s, early 90s into this concept of a business partner. And this, by the way, is not intended to offend anyone or tell you to go change your title or whatever. But I think this is time for us to consider rethinking this, because words matter. A lot of times it's about how we think and how others think of ourselves in our professional roles and in the context of the business world. The challenge that I have with the notion of a business partner is that it suggests that the business is over there and the HR folks are over there, and we're partnering with them. Frankly, I think we've come too far for this. In a knowledge economy where human capital is the most valuable form of capital, we are the business. Our work cuts to the very heart of what makes organizations successful. And I tested this with 2 CEOs just yesterday. And they said, Johnny, that makes sense. But the challenge back to us is you've got to be ready as a profession to make a more commanding role, to take a more commanding role, that is, and make the same sorts of contributions with the same swagger, right, that CFOs, chief legal officers, and chief marketing officers are doing every day. Again, we are more than a partner to the business. We are a critical part of the business. And we've got to embrace that. Again, I'm not here to debate with you about titles, but you got to think about that. It's a mindset. Okay? Now, to be successful in this new abnormal, where human capital is everything, I'll put to you that there are 3 types of expertise that you're going to need to master. I'm going to fly through them, but I want you to think about it because it's only 3. Number 1, each of us needs to be people experts. Anybody out here watch the television series Billions? Love me some Billions, okay? If you haven't, it's worth watching because most of the televised depictions of HR are not flattering. In this instance, the character who plays the head of HR, although they won't call her the head of HR, her name is Wendy, the character's name is Wendy. Wendy has a keen understanding of what motivates human beings. She can predict how they will respond to different stimuli. She can take someone who's not doing well, who used to do well, and make them better, almost like a physician of sorts. And my friend, she's not always nice and warm and feel good. In fact, she can be rough, but she's incredibly effective, highly valued by the CEO and the rest of the team, and she's well paid. She is the expert in the room, the person you can trust. She understands people on the deepest level. And we've all heard everyone say, oh, I understand people. I've managed people all of my career. No, you don't. No, you don't. But just as people trust their doctors with their health, their accountants with their money, and their lawyers with their freedom, people want, I'm hearing this, they want to trust their HR professionals with expertise around people. They want us to do this, and we've got to deliver it. I'm reminded of a situation. I went to a company recently, and I visited them for the first time. Went to their senior management meeting. I'm sitting there, and they had an executive presenting. He'd been with the company about 20 years. He was the number 2 ranking executive in the company. Talking with the folks about him, and they said, he's great, he's great. I watched his interaction with his colleagues. I saw him respond to the chairman of the board when he was asked questions. I saw the body sort of responses. Body language was all wrong. At the end of the meeting, we went into executive session, and I said, he won't be here 6 months from now. And they said, you don't know what you're talking about. I said, well, I don't know. I'm just telling you what I think. I'm the people expert. Remember, that's what you all brought me in for. 90 days later, the guy walked in and handed in his resignation. The chairman of the board called me and said, how in God's green earth did you know that? I said, because I am an HR expert. This is what we do. You rely on other people to tell you, I know what we do because we've spent so much of our time in our career and becoming certified and getting experience through real life. We know people. So you got to become an expert on people. Number 2 is you've got to become a business expert. And my friends, I'm not just talking about going out and getting a class in HR, finance for non-finance professionals. We must know our organizations, whether for-profit, nonprofit, or government. We have to understand how those organizations make money, lose money, are capitalized, etc. And at a very granular level, HR must understand this, or you cannot design and develop a human capital strategy. So it's not enough just to be a people expert, you've got to be a business expert as well. So I'm going to tell you a story that's a little vulnerable, but it was my first CHRO job, Fortune 500 job, New York City, working for a big company called IAC, which are operating, you probably don't know the name, but the divisions were Ticketmaster, Home Shopping Network, Match.com, down the list. Huge New York-based global phenom, Ask.com, you name it. And I was given the privilege of being their first CHRO. So I'm there, and they say, we need a new CEO of Home Shopping Network, HSN. I'm charged with going out and finding that. I do what all of you would do. We go post in the right place. We consider search firms. We do everything. Finally, we came up with a list of about 10 candidates. To be honest, the number 1 candidate, the person who somehow just kind of came up from the list to me, was a woman. The problem with this woman is, unlike the other candidates, it's not that it was just she didn't have a college degree, number 1. And at that time, I thought, well, you've got to have a college degree. And you can't just have a college degree, Betty. You've got to have a college degree from the right schools. And then you need an MBA. And then you need 20 years of experience in our industry to get this job. So I ranked them based upon that. I went in to go talk with my boss at the time. And I won't tell you his name, but let me tell you everything about him. He's a rough one. He looked at me and he says, you have the very narrow HR perspective. This is my first CHRO job. I'm offended. He said, I'm overruling you. I want to see her. Well, in the days after we announced her as the new CEO, and I wasn't fired, the company's stock popped hugely and started its rise, a rise that would last throughout her reign. One of the issues that I struggled with her as well is even when we were ready to make the offer, She said, I've got a $2 million retention bonus at my other employer. And if you want me to come work for you, you've got to absorb that. So her brother said, well, when is it due? And she said, in 4 months. I said, we'll call you in 5 because we're not going to spend that $2 million. Not happening. $2 million? What? I missed the point. That $2 million investment yielded hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars in return from shareholders, but it was from someone without a college degree. When we announced it, the market exploded. And to be honest, I had never thought about the outsized business implications of my decision as the HR guy. I was busy being an HR expert, a people expert, but not a business expert. By the way, that CEO I almost didn't put in the front of my boss, that was Mindy Grossman. She did it. Third and finally, you need to be a culture expert. HR, we aren't the owners of culture, but we are the facilitators and nurturers of it. And one of the things that we know, if we know nothing at all, is that the only way to attract and keep people today is to be very clear about your culture. Once it was a soft word, right? The soft HR word, culture. Foosball machines, popcorn, all that good stuff, beer at work. I saw that at a place recently, right? But culture is now the word people want to understand before they join your organization. They expect you to articulate it. And if you don't deliver on the culture that you represented to them during the courtship process, we call it recruitment, they will leave you as quickly as they came, often trashing you and your employer brand on the way out of the door. People these days vote with their feet in the knowledge economy. So we must get culture right. I often say there's no perfect culture. I'm not even sure there's good or bad cultures, save for illegal, immoral, unethical cultures. But what you have to do is be very, very clear about it, because you're asking people to dedicate most of their waking time to you and your organization, and you want them to thrive so that you thrive. How many of you have left your good job for a supposedly new, better job, better pay, better career opportunities, only to feel duped when you got there? He said, me, first hand goes up. Well, if you can't relate, I can, and it is horrible. In fact, it pisses you off, to be really honest. You go to work every day saying to yourself, it's not that I can't do this job, hell, I don't want to do this job here. So what do? You stay until you find something else, or increasingly, you just quit with nowhere to go, anywhere but there. My friends, this is what happens when HR hasn't helped the organization articulate its culture clearly, not the brand that you want, the aspirational brand, but what it means to work there. And then once you get the people there, you don't hold your colleagues around the executive table, that C-suite, you don't hold them accountable for being honest and consistent with that culture. It's a broken promise to employees in HR. We can do better than that. Now, I want to take you back to Mindy again. This headline from Harvard Business Review makes the most salient point I've seen in a long time, and business leaders are now acknowledgingly, openly, and sincerely, culture is everything. Everything. Now, these three types of expertise, people expertise, business expertise, and culture, are what will keep your organization surviving and growing for the next 25 years. It will ensure business believes in us, and that's what success will look like. But because we're not cyborgs, this is something I want to deliver to each of you. I want to urge you to nurture and maintain a very, very important tool that you carry with you in and out of your workplaces every day. It's a tool shared by everyone who chooses this profession. That tool is your heart. This is something AI can never, ever replicate. Not ever. Having a heart for people and actually liking them hasn't always been prioritized or even thought necessary in our profession. And we can all be honest, there are days when you don't like people if you're in HR, right? But at the end of the day, you go home and you return ready to make a difference in a person's life, because that's what we do. At the end of the day, you can't send a cyborg or ask ChatGPT to do the job of a human, making each employee feel unique, feeling valued, and feeling heard. When HR leaders truly like and respect people, they build strong relationships that keep high performers in place, and then they spread the word about your employer brand. Tomorrow's HR leader must have a heart for helping people. And it may sound corny, but I'm here to tell you it's a corny, brutal reality. And this is why HR isn't for everyone. Because this job, our profession, can break your heart sometimes. It actually gets under your skin like no other. You don't leave work at work, you take it with you. And that, my friends, is what I think makes it beautiful. After all, aren't we the human in human resources? But I got to tell you, one final big reminder: take care of yourselves. Make sure to put on your own oxygen mask first. Fasten your seatbelts and ensure your tray tables are upright and in the locked position, because this is going to be a bumpy ride. The next 25 years, actually probably the next 25 months, are going to be very interesting. In another 25 years, when SHRM celebrates its centennial, and I hope to be sitting there, not up here, it is my dream and goal that we will have equipped this profession, equipped them to drive change in an exciting, scary, unfathomable future. And by that I mean we will be preparing you. SHRM is going to do this, our commitment to you, to empower you to pass your knowledge and expertise to the next generation of SHRM members who are going to lead through the new abnormal. But perhaps the most important thing you can do for the future of HR is to bring more people like you, like all of you in this room, into our industry, our profession. Companies are struggling to fill talent gaps in the HR suite. Help them. Become active in your local chapter. Become a volunteer leader. In fact, we have some of the greatest volunteer leaders right here at SHRM, and many of them are here today. Let me thank them for their support. Friends, as we come to the end of this incredible conference, how about Janet Jackson last night? How about it? I want you to take a deep breath and with confidence declare with me, we can do this. Hell, we already have. We just experienced the second Big Bang, followed by a great resignation and now great regret, when the entire workforce seemed mad at us and were ready to bail. Well, guess what? There's new data from the Conference Board that tells us job satisfaction is now higher than it's been in 36 years. I'm going to say that we did that. Okay? We're making a difference in people's lives, and we can see it in real time. We are actually the lucky ones. Our daily work can make a lifelong impact on people. I don't know if you know this, but researchers estimate the average person will meet something like 80,000 people during their lifetime. For each of you in HR, it's a lot more. We are in the unique position of having people remember us long after we've forgotten them. Because HR comes into people's lives at the most critical moments. Remember, it's lives and livelihoods. Listen. We are all going to leave this world one day, hopefully after living 80, 90, 100 plus wonderful years. And at the moment of death, researchers say this is phenomena called a life review, where scientists define it as a recap, a montage of your life shown in sequence. You've seen it in the movies, right? Yes, your life apparently really does pass before your eyes in those last moments. And in that montage reel, along with family and friends, you'll probably see the folks who appear because of their jobs, like the teacher whose job it was to help you grow, the doctors and nurses who kept you healthy, that cop who pulled you over and stopped you from doing something stupid, that professor who wrote you a recommendation for your first job, or the HR professional who took that chance on you and gave you your first professional opportunity. I actually remember mine. It's a woman by the name of Abby Mauld. She was at the law firm that I first joined out of law school. You can be a part of people's life review. Listen, there are a few questions I want you to think about as you leave this building in a few minutes to travel back to your home cities. 1, will you make an appearance in the life review of others? And 2, what role will you play in their memories? It can be positive or it can be negative. Maybe you were the person who helped them through a personal crisis, who stood up for them against a toxic boss. Let me see, who reached out when they were struggling with a secret addiction, who gave them a chance to succeed when no one else would. Maybe you were that person who helped them when they were being the victims of domestic violence at home. The fact of the matter is when HR is done right, we write a chapter in almost everyone's life story. Our work matters. It really matters in the end. There's so much more for HR to accomplish in the new abnormal. All we've got to do is imagine it first, to dream big, to step over the fears and the hang-ups that are blocking us. The life review, by the way, shows us what was. But do me a favor, let's play the tape forward and imagine with our youth what will be.
Imagine no possessions. I wonder if you can. No need for greed or hunger. A brotherhood of man. Imagine all the people sharing all the world. Yeah.
Imagine a world that matches people to jobs perfectly aligned to their strengths, their interests, and learning styles. Imagine a moment when diversity and inclusion are the norm and the uniqueness of people is celebrated and cultivated. Imagine a global economy and community of businesses driven not just by profit, but by the desire to improve the world. Imagine you, each of you, changing how people experience this world, right alongside science and technology. Imagine being that person who touched another person so deeply and had such a profound impact on their lives that you will live forever in their memories. Imagine yourself writing a page in someone's life story. That, my friends, is an awesome responsibility. And I want to thank each of you for giving me the privilege of serving as the leader of the most impactful profession on the globe. SHRM will continue to serve and support each of you, every one of you, as page follows page in the ageless story of work. Thank you, and God bless.